So let me first introduce myself. My name is Aaron Batt. I am the Federal Coordinator for Operation Allies Welcome. Sometimes you'll hear us referred to as OAW. That is, I represent the Department of Homeland Security at the federal level and assigned down here at Camp Atterbury since the beginning, which was 1 September. Have had the honor and privilege to getting to work with many state and local authorities, some of which have joined us today for a quick recap of some of those challenges and successes that we've had along the way. And then also spend a little bit of time talking about what those milestone accomplishments were. And then we also want to showcase this mural that one of our local Indiana muralists worked with our Afghan population to be able to put together for you here today. So with that, I want to thank Congressman Pence, National Guard, Major General Lyles, muralist Tiffany Black, and of course Governor Holcomb for joining us, and also Department of State Jeff Smith and Brigadier General Felty from Task Force Kane for joining us. So Operation Allies Welcome at the federal level, we have welcomed in 84,600 Afghan nationals, American citizens, and lawful permanent residents into the United States. 76,000 are Afghan nationals, and the remainder are U.S. citizens and permanent residents. Over the last few months, more than 63,000 Afghan nationals have joined our new communities, and only about 12,000 remain at safe havens similar to this camp around the United States. So Camp Atterbury began on September 1st, in which we accepted our first guests. I think many of us received a couple of days' notice, at least, that that operation was going to take place. And of course, we immediately responded, to serve. Since then, we have assisted 7,201 Afghan guests here at Camp Atterbury and helped them resettle into communities around the United States, and specifically 45 different states just from Camp Atterbury here. Indiana was among the top 10 for Camp Atterbury as far as deploying and resettling into specific states. So here, I'd like to take a minute and give you some very general overview of some of the things that we were able to accomplish and successfully provide here at Camp Atterbury. The journey, of course, started in Afghanistan and then to one of the lily pads or safe havens, Oconus, in which we performed very rigorous background checks and vetting and screening of our Afghans before coming into the United States. They then arrived at either Dulles or Philadelphia Airport before going to one of 8 different safe havens. We, of course, are one of those safe havens here at Camp Atterbury. And as soon as they arrived here at Camp Atterbury, we began providing safe and healthy environment for our guests. We actually vaccinated all 7,201 guests, providing for measles, mumps, rubella, varicella, polio, COVID, flu, and other age-appropriate vaccines. That totaled 69,000 vaccines provided just here at Camp Atterbury. Of course, during the times in which we are, COVID was, of course, a major concern for us, and while we were vaccinating our guests, we also wanted to make sure that we didn't have as very many cases that came into Camp Atterbury. And so we provided testing weekly of all of our guests. We then, of course, started providing testing for all of our DOD and interagency groups and volunteers that we're supporting. We then moved to more regular testing as we got closer to the end and the Omicron virus continued to show increase. We provided over 60,000 different COVID tests just here on the base during that time. And we had a positivity rate less than 1%. And so I think if you look at any of the other locations, you'll see what an accomplishment and success that was. I want to thank our medical team, Dr. Zarbaki and his team for his help in that. So over the past 5 months, the Department of Defense and Contract have provided 1.3 million meals or more. We have had 10 different special events that I want to recognize: Indiana University, Indianapolis Symphony Orchestra, Sylvia McNair, Butler Choir, and the Indiana Soccer Association, in which they held outdoor events here for us, and we had more than 2,000 guests participating. We also had about 1,500 of our guests get personalized and individual legal services. Again, a service provided by the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops and lawyer support. More than 50% of our adult guests attended 2 to 3 different life skills training sessions in which they learned about the differences in cultures from the United States to Afghanistan that would help them as they resettled. And our most popular was our English second language class, in which we had 20,000 different sessions and participation. And so if you average that out among our adult population, we saw anywhere from 6 to 9 different sessions attended by the same adult trying to expand their English. We also had a recreational center and activities space in each of one of our blocks. That was again staffed by U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops. They had a combined 49,607 different guest appearances. Those were people showing up to play soccer, therapy, art, volleyball, cricket, foosball, ping pong, and of course participation in crafts, croquet, and painting. Probably one of the proudest things that we also received and couldn't have done it without so many just generous Hoosiers was the donations. We've talked about that in the past, but we concluded with more than 2.6 million donated items just here at Camp Atterbury. Those things included personal hygiene, diapers, winter clothes, shoes, jackets, traditional wear, cribs, toys, books, and personal items. And so I just want to thank all of our Hoosiers and anyone and everyone who helped make that possible. There were, of course, several things that we as the federal government tried to provide, but the general public stepped in and provided most of those things. I also want to thank our leaders. This was definitely a whole of society approach, from our sheriffs in the local community to our mayors and town leaders who we were in regular contact with each week. They really made this possible. They provided any resources that we needed, and we are successful because of that. And so I'm happy to stand here in front of you today and say that after today, we will have less than 15 Afghan evacuees here at Camp Atterbury, and we anticipate those 14 departing this week. And so this week will conclude the federal government and DOD's portion for support of Operation Allies Welcome here at Camp Atterbury. And I thank you all for everything that you've done to help support us along the way and the leadership that we received. So with that, I'd like to take the opportunity to recognize Congressman Pence to say a few words.
Well, good morning, Camp Atterbury. I was fortunate and honored enough to come out here a few times, and I'd like to say we're very lucky to have one of the finest military and civilian training bases right here in Indiana. I want to take a moment to thank Aaron Batt for the great job that you did. Every time I came out here, he led this wonderful team and managed the process from you got 800 people one night and then up to 7,000 just weeks later, so congratulations. And Governor Holcomb, thanks for joining us here in the Indiana 6th District this morning. The governor and his team were essential state-based partners that we needed to oversee this operation at the federal level. Since Camp Atterbury opened in 1942, the base's motto has been Preparamus, which stands for We Are Ready. Operation Allies Welcome here at Camp Atterbury got ready fast. Back in August, when there was a great deal of uncertainty surrounding the crisis in Afghanistan, Hoosiers quickly prepared to play a part in helping those fleeing the conflict happening halfway across the world. They proved to be ready to help the thousands of evacuees from Afghanistan who face grim and uncompromising circumstances. Throughout the course of Operation Allies Welcome, I was honored to pay multiple visits to Atterbury to fill my congressional oversight duties in monitoring this mission. What I saw was our Hoosier generosity and hospitality on full display. Hoosiers were ready. That's the best part of Indiana, as you all well know. Whether it was members of the Indiana National Guard or the countless neighbors across our community who donated supplies for evacuees, Hoosiers proved their ready hospitality. Hoosiers of Indiana's 6th District and all across the state stood up and accepted the challenge of hosting this operation. I couldn't be prouder of our community, state, and everyone involved in Operation Allies Welcome. So to all of you here today, I say mission accomplished, and thank you for a job well done. And I'll turn it back to Aaron.
Well, thank you, sir. And if I was keeping track, I think this might be your 5th visit out here in a very short period of time. So we appreciated all your support. With that, I would like to recognize the National Guard, Major General Louth.
Thank you, Aaron. It's my pleasure to be here today. Distinguished visitors and guests, Governor Holcomb, Congressman Pence, General Felty, Mr. Smith, and Mr. Aaron Batt. Thank you for the opportunity to talk today. So, 35 years of service, National Guard and active federal service. I have been involved in a multitude of interagency processes, and I will tell you, I've never seen anything go as smoothly as this one has gone. As a matter of fact, most interagency operations that I've been involved with, there's a little bit of inter-service, interagency rivalry that tend to sometimes degrade the mission because of different objectives and goals. But in this case, none of that was apparent to me, absolutely zero of that. And I got to tell you, when you reflect upon the month of August, as we were working with the Department of Defense and the Biden administration on whether this would be a site to do this, we became notified very rapidly, and I will tell you, some of the people that came here had 1 day notice. Our medical team, 1 day from San Diego. A phone call, and then get your supplies and get on an airplane and come here, and they've been here ever since. And so for me, to see this, it's been very heartwarming. So Department of Homeland Security, Department of State, DOD had the Indiana National Guard, the Indiana Air National Guard, active component Army, Air Force, Navy, and the Coast Guard is even here as well. And then you sprinkle in the non-governmental organizations that made all this very successful, and then Governor Holcomb adding in the state governmental organizations of this became an overwhelming success. So Operation Allied Welcome was a reception, in-processing, integration, and onward movement of people. And they did a phenomenal job. And there could be playbooks written about the work that they have done. And as Congressman Pence indicated, Camp Atterbury is well suited to do these kinds of missions. We are known by the Army as a mobilization force generation platform. We do this kind of work. In World War II, we mobilized thousands of soldiers for World War II and also received them in the demobilization process as they came back. So Camp Atterbury is well positioned for that. Camp Atterbury will now immediately turn its attention to reset operations and get itself ready for the next mission. And I want to end on this. I spent a year of my life, a little less than a year of my life in Afghanistan. I've been to Kabul, Kandahar, Mazar-e Sharif, Gardez, Bagram, and Herat. And there was a big part of me that was left in that country. We lost 4 of our soldiers, Indiana Hoosiers, while I was over there from my company. And this goes a long ways with healing some of those wounds, as well as resettling over 7,000 Afghans that wanted to come to this country and start anew because they no longer could live in their home country. And so for this today, it's very heartwarming for me. It's very healing for me. And for that, I appreciate all that you have done and all that you guys have done to make this mission very successful. Thank you.
General Lyles, thank you so much. Definitely wouldn't have been here today without the National Guard. Also want to recognize and thank Colonel Grumman for his support in hosting us and actually making sure that we were able to have this mission successful. So we thank you. Next, I'd like to introduce Indiana muralist Tiffany Black.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Tiffany Black. I'm a visual artist based in Indianapolis, and I'm here today to discuss the painting that you see here behind me. The painting is titled August 15th, and it tells the story of how so many lives were forever changed on that day when the Taliban took over Afghanistan. I was invited by the United Conference of Catholic Bishops to lead an art project with Afghan evacuees who had just arrived here at Camp Atterbury with the hope that it might help them to process the events and the aftermath of the Taliban takeover. When I was introduced to guest Zainab Ahmadi, I knew that I had met my collaborator on this project. She is a visual artist from Kabul. She evacuated with her best friend, Fauzia Abdali, along with both of their mothers. Both worked to promote the empowerment of women in Afghanistan, which is why they were forced to leave their home. In September, I asked them, "What do you want to say to the world about your experiences?" And this painting is what emerged from that. It's because of Zainab and Fauzia, because of their willingness to be vulnerable, that this visual memorial stands behind us today. I cannot thank them enough for their courage. A total of 59 Afghan guests of all ages participated in this project, and in December, we completed the mural. To complete this project, we worked very closely with a group of art therapists called Art of the Soul. They created a safe space for our guests to express themselves, and they led them through calming practices of creating mandala designs. This is what inspired the circular format that you see in the mural. Based on hundreds of therapeutic artworks created by our Afghan guests, Zainab, Fauzia, and I compiled these 7 designs, which represent their collective thoughts, emotions, hopes, and dreams. All of these individuals are represented in the figures you see throughout the background. The designs each tell a different story. The number 15, directly in the center of the painting, commemorates the day the Taliban took control of Afghanistan. Just as the lives of Afghans have unfolded from that single date, the rest of this painting unfolds from the single point in the center. The number 15 is set within a clock. This represents the passage of time on that day, spent in fear and tension. Each second, minute, and hour that passed made people more vulnerable to violence and trauma. Symbols of their journey to the U.S. are layered outward. Many traveled a long distance just to get to Kabul. After days of waiting, they boarded planes in a chaotic airport, and eventually they arrived here. The feet symbolize each step of their journey. These are actual footprints of Afghan children and adults of all ages, including an 11-month-old baby. The lamps in the center symbolize hope and light for the future, and the daffodils are for new beginnings. The insignia represent the U.S. Armed Forces, including the Air Force who performed the evacuation. It also represents all of those in the military who have kept our Afghan allies safe and healthy during this time. Through this painting, our Afghan friends wish to express their deep gratitude to all branches of the military. This piece behind me here addresses broken family units and expresses hope for reunification. The couple in the center are Fauzia, one of our artists, and her fiance. Both evacuated, but to different countries. This example speaks to the experience of many of our Afghan friends almost all of whom are now separated from loved ones. The piece to the far end on this side represents traditional Afghan culture. The beauty of Afghanistan is now eclipsed by war and misery. The Taliban has outlawed very important parts of Afghan culture, such as music, singing, and dancing, which I was lucky enough to really get to know while working at Camp Atterbury. The chain wrapped around the center is breaking free from their control. Now, as Afghans begin their new lives here, they hope to share their beautiful culture with their new neighbors. And now that all of our guests have been resettled, almost all of our guests have been resettled, this painting will go on a traveling exhibition. We will raise funds for a charity group that Zainab founded in 2015, which distributes food and warm clothing directly to Afghan children who are suffering from neglect, poverty, and hunger. By sharing this artwork and its stories, I hope to inspire Americans to welcome our Afghan friends into our communities. These men and women will live and work alongside us. Their children will grow up with our children. They'll go to our schools and become the next generation of Americans. In the words of artist Zainab, when someone begins a life in a new culture, their identity is washed away and they must start over. How can we help them to feel welcome here? How can we help ease some of their burdens? How can we focus on humanity and the future of our country? If any Afghans are resettling in your community, I encourage you to please reach out to them. By doing so, you will serve your country and you will continue the spirit of this mission, Operation Allies Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Tiffany, and I will, in listening to you, I was reminded that we have had 33 babies since, being here at Camp Atterbury, and I can say that I have spent hours reviewing this mural, looking at every symbol, and every time I get the opportunity to speak with Tiffany, I learn a new piece to it and what that symbol means and what was behind it. And so, I'm going to welcome up Governor Holcomb to help close us out today, and then at the conclusion of that, we'll allow you to have individual discussions with Tiffany and anyone else to learn more. So, Governor.
Well, move over, Monet. I don't, first of all, let me just say my heart's full of pride. And it doesn't take an artist's eye, because I surely don't have one, or art degrees, to instantly see and feel the beauty of this mural and what it symbolizes and reflects, knowing the hands and the souls and the emotion that was poured out onto this canvas. To think about all those brush strokes and the meaning behind each of them, the hope and the new home that it represents for these folks who are in search of a place of peace. You bring great honor, Tiffany, not just to this cause, but to our state and to our nation. And I can only imagine how proud your parents are, because we share that. When I think about this journey that these 7,200 that found their way to Indiana, this journey away from oppression in a war-torn country to this place of peace and promise, away from fleeing to this future of freedom. These were giant steps in lives to get to this very point, and then to cast out their own vision and have the ability to do that. Indiana is indeed proud that we've been all collectively, from different walks, from different places, that we've been called on to carry out this unprecedented humanitarian effort. It was one of reciprocity for our allies, of course, for it was they who stood in the gap. It was they who hid. It was they who had to flee when the Taliban on the 15th of August took that country over. It was living in fear and never knowing if they would ever experience such a place like America or Indiana, and the outpouring of Hoosier hospitality that was real, that was surrounding, that was comforting. This mural reflects that historic effort all on one wall. And so as this joint mission, by every definition of the word joint, does conclude, I do want to just repeat what you've heard, that it never would have happened without the constant cooperation and collaboration and commitment of those who cared outside their own space and place. So for sure, Aaron, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, the State Department, the Department of Defense. When I think about Colonel coming from San Diego, I mean, set aside December and January in Indiana compared to San Diego, but when I think about you coming here on 24 hours notice and the onslaught of work that would be on your desktop day in and day out, when I think about Colonel Grunman, you know, a Vincennes boy, and you being a Hoosier too, and our Adjutant General, all coming together and folding in our federal partners, Congressman, our local partners, making sure there was that constant communication so that our local communities were settled and understanding of what was going on behind the gate, what was happening, the forces of good that were at work here. When I think about what that took, I think about the Department of Workforce Development, working with over 400 businesses who said, we want to give you a job for your future. We want you to find security when you leave here. When I think about our FSSA and our Department of Health, Homeland Security, Steve Cox is here. That donation effort that you talked about, where folks were literally providing shoes while they were here on base, and those very shoes that would walk off this base into a new career and a new beginning. Something very profound happened here on Hoosier soil. It happened in other places for sure in America. But as I said at the very outset, when the NGOs came together and helped people find where they would be forever, this truly was one of Indiana's finest hours. And so that I'm eternally grateful, and to think about 7,200 down to 212, I think you mentioned, 200 departing today, 12 more this week. We're not just going to wash our hands. Our mission is accomplished here. But we're going to continue to walk side by side with our new residents here in the state of Indiana. And so this was a true team effort. And for that, I too say congratulations on a job well done if you had any hand in this, large or small. And to our newest Hoosiers, welcome home.
Governor, thank you so much for those kind words, and for all of you for joining us here today. Just want to give one last gratitude of appreciation and thanks to all our men and women in green, and our federal and state and local partners, and our media who have helped tell the story here at Camp Atterbury for Operation Allies Welcome. And this will conclude our federal portion of that this week. This will close out this particular media event. I will remove this podium here in a minute so that you can get a full visual of this mural, and then welcome you to stick around and have one-on-one interviews with any of our guests that you would like. So with that, I thank you very much.